Hello.
Then, now,
Countdown to the queens.
Episode number 500.
forever.
Looks like hell froze over.
Without any more further ado,
Together.
let's jump straight into the show. Hello, back to episode number 159 of the TEW IX Challenge Run. We're here for SmackDown for May 30th, 2025. We're hot off the heels of Judgment Day, SmackDown's first pay-per-view event since WrestleMania, with the grueling Elimination Chamber in the main event. You know, all 6 of those women did go through hell. IYO retains the Women's World Championship, and obviously 5 of those women are just about in a condition to make it here tonight. You can probably hazard a guess as to who isn't here. But yes, tonight, I don't think we actually have anything announced for the show. But yeah, we're going to get the fallout from Judgment Day as we barrel on towards Bad Blood on the SmackDown side now. It's not just the Raw side building towards Bad Blood. It's now the SmackDown end. And yes, without any more further ado, let's jump straight into the show. We start the ring with Sami Zayn. He comes to the ring, still the World Heavyweight Champion, defeating Bobby Lashley and Buster Gates, a triple threat match at Judgment Day. And, he comes to the ring, the crowd's cheering him on, singing his song, going, ole, 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 all that. He goes, what's up, Portland? Now, Saturday night, I'm not gonna lie, it was a tough test for me as the World Heavyweight Champion. I had to go up against a man who I respect the hell out of in Buster Gates, and the former world champion who made my life hell for a few months, Bobby Lashley. But in the end, just like at WrestleMania, I proved everybody that I do belong at the top. Now, Lashley, it's been fun. Okay, you sure did test me and push me to my limits, and quite frankly, in a weird sort of way, I feel like I have to thank Bobby Lashley for being such a tough competitor that it allowed me to do what I didn't know if I could do, and finally once again become World Heavyweight Champion. But for now, as far as I'm concerned, things between me and Bobby Lashley are over. Which brings me to what's next. See, we have Bad Blood on the horizon, and I'm sure there'll be another chance for me to defend my World Heavyweight Championship on that show, and this roster is full of talent, stacked top to bottom. You got guys like Swerve. You've got guys like Drew McIntyre. You've got Okada, Montez Ford, AJ Styles, Ilya Dragunov, Randy Orton. You name them, they're all out there. But as for who's next, then Buster's music hits, and Buster comes out. He goes, Sammy, first of all, good job on Judgment Day, great outing out there. I was this close to becoming World Heavyweight Champion, but I couldn't quite get it done, Sammy. That's because you were there to take that pinfall and pin Bobby Lashley after I did all the work. But, history books say you're the World Champion, who's counting? Who's really counting? He goes, Buster, I was just about to get to you. And he goes, were you though, Sammy? Because you seemed pretty fast to move on from Judgment Day and onto who's next for your World Heavyweight Championship. But last I checked, you still haven't beat me for that championship, have you? Last I checked, you pinned Bobby Lashley at Judgment Day. Last I checked, after I won the Battle Royal at WrestleMania to get a title shot, fair and square, one-on-one, you and I, no outside interference, no distractions. We still haven't had that title match. So, with Bobby Lashley out of the way, Sammy, I'm just here to ask, when's that coming? When are you and I going to do the dance one-on-one for that championship? And he goes, look, Buster, I respect the hell out of you. I've actually grown to quite like you over the past few weeks. We've fought off the Hurt Business together. But I can't just hand out shots for the World Heavyweight Championship. And then Buster goes, of course you can't just hand out. See, the thing is, this isn't a handout, Sammy. This is earned. This is deserved. Okay? You can put on this goody two-shoes, champion of the people act all you want. But the more you keep ducking me, and the more you keep stealing my opportunities, the more I'm going to start thinking, man, maybe Sami Zayn isn't about fairness. Maybe Sami Zayn is only about one thing and one thing only, and that's Sami Zayn. Sami goes, Buster, listen, if you want another shot of the World Heavyweight Championship, that's fine. All you've got to do is own it. Buster goes, of course. Earn the title shot. Okay, Sami, like I've done every single time I step into this ring and I prove that I'm World Championship caliber, but nobody ever lets me get it. You know? Sami, fine. Challenge accepted. I'll earn myself a shot at the World Championship. But just know this. Respect between you and I goes out the window the second that bell rings. And I leave World Heavyweight Champion finally. No distractions, no other people getting involved in my business. Just me and you for the championship. Sami goes, I look forward to it. And then Buster leaves. And Sami's like, oh, he's quite angry. But also Sami's obviously a very understanding man. But Buster has technically lost 2 title matches. So Sami's not just going to give him another one, but you can also understand Buster's frustrations because, you know, fuckery happened in those matches. But yeah, very tense opening segment between Buster Gates and Sami Zayn. We then cut to, speaking of championships and people wanting fair title opportunities, Nova Nebula is in Adam Pearce's office and she goes, Pearce, this Elimination Chamber thing was your idea, right? So I want you to hold yourself responsible because I should be standing here right now as the Women's World Champion, but I'm not. And I would love to blame the Elimination Chamber. And quite frankly, it is a bit ridiculous that there was 5 other people in there, but it was my own fault. I beat myself. IYO didn't beat me. I made one mistake and it cost me that match. But Pearce, if you truly are respectable in your role, which I know you're not, but maybe just this one time you can be, and you can do what's right and give me another shot at IYO in the World Championship. Pearce goes, well, this is actually a first. Normally when girls like you and people like that and Cammy and JCJ and all these other people come into my office, they're moaning about things, but for the first time, Nova, you and I are in agreement. Which is actually why before you even came here tonight, I made an official match to determine who was next to face IYO for the Women's World Championship, and I picked who I believed were the 2 strongest contenders for that championship. They are the 2 women who were the final 2 in the Elimination Chamber. Yourself, other than IYO, of course, yourself and Julia, and you'll go one-on-one later on tonight with the winner of that match getting the next shot at the Women's World Championship. It is official. And Nova sort of just laughs and says, funny, I was prepared to really come in here and, you know, chew your ear off, but for the first time in a long time, if ever, Pearce, you actually did something right. So yeah, Julia and Nova later on tonight, winner gets the shot at IYO for the championship. AT Raid opening match, holy shit, that overachieved for what is a mid-card feud between 2 comedy mid-card tag teams. An 8 Raid match is really good. Chase you against Pretty Deadly, and Pretty Deadly do cheat to win, so obviously, you know, the finish comes. I know it's technically weird because they're not outnumbered per se, because there's still 2 members of Pretty Deadly, but, you know, the not having the Chase You, like, entourage out there and not having other people to cheer them on ends up being Andre Chase's downfall. He's got no one out there to fire him up when he's doing the they give me a CHASU chants. And he eventually is pinned by Kit Wilson. 83 for Ellen Prince, 77 for Kit Wilson, 68 for Andre Chase, and a 74 for Keith Lee. So yeah, actually a pretty good little match for this silly feud that, you know, I don't really, at this current moment in time, I don't know what the blow-off is going to be, But I'm sure I'll think of something fun for it because, look at who's in it. Obviously, this is stupid. And I like it. We then, speaking of stupid and I like it, Cammy walks into the Queendom locker room. Julia is, a bit frustrated, but Utami's fucking pissed, okay? Because obviously what went down in the Elimination Chamber, and she was pinned and eliminated first by Julia. And Cammy comes in, she goes, "So guess what I just heard from Adam Pearce?" And Utami's like, "What?" Just tonight, we have another chance to get our championship back. It's going to be you against Nova Nebula 1-on-1 tonight with the winner facing off against Io for the championship. And Utami sort of just smiles and goes, "Great. I get my championship back." And Kemp's like, No, he said Julia. Julia is on World Championship business tonight. And Julia sort of steps forward and smiles like, "Don't worry. I got this." And then Utami sort of looks frustrated at Julia. And Cammy goes, "As for you, I do have something else I need the rest of us to do." And they also look confused at Cammy, like, "What?" She goes, "We have some pests I need taken care of. So Saya, Megasis, Yoko, Utami, we're on J-Flow watch tonight." And Cammy leaves with the other three. Utami sort of lingers behind a little bit. She sort of glares back across at Julia before she leaves. You can see Julia's trying to hide her laughter. And she just shakes her head and walks out. But yes, Utami's important business tonight. She'll wrestle Tam 1-on-1 in singles action. Whereas Julia is in the main event wrestling for the World Championship. It's time, Queendom had a good time in the main event scene, but it's about time they did some side quest, and this feud is I like it. It's very fun, and I should do more feuds of top stars against mid-carders, and we're doing side quests here for the Queendom girls. Speaking of the women's tag teams, Shayna Baszler and Carmella are backstage talking about their victory at Judgment Day on the pre-show, and how next week they're going to get their shot at the Women's Tag Team Championships. And Shayna goes, "We've come up short far too many times, okay? We came back together as a tag team all those years ago, and we've stuck together through thick and thin all this time. Even when Zoe Stark on Heat was trying to rip us apart, saying that Carmella didn't deserve to be by my side, I stuck to it. Because I know we are the strongest women's tag team here in WWE. But we just can't. Every single time we challenge for those championships, we come up short. And it's about time we change that. Next week, Nexus girls, bring as many of you as you want. Because we only need 2 of us. You want to dominate in the name of NXT. Well, I was dominating in the name of NXT 7 years ago. And I think it's time the Queen of Spades returned to that form." And then Fatal Influence walk in. She goes, "Sorry, I couldn't help but overhear you say that. You said you and Carmella were the best women's tag team here in WWE. But I didn't really see you on the pre-preview the last weekend because you were on the pre-show while we were on the main show winning like we do. Because Fallon and Selena are the greatest women's tag team here in WWE, and you've only won that title opportunity because they weren't in the match, because we had more important things to do, like shutting the mouth of Jordan Grace, Sol Ruca, and Kelani Jordan." And Shane goes, "Well, if you really believe that, how about tonight we'll put that title opportunity on the line against you two?" And then JC goes, "Great. You're stupid as well as everything else wrong with you. See you tonight, and keep that titles warm, Roxy and Cora, because they're coming home to Fatal Influence too. Because once they get the championships, then it's time for me to get mine." Oh, okay. My apologies, Utami. I shouldn't have laughed at you for doing Tam Law. Being on Tam Watch was a fine part of the show because the match gets a 90. But yes, Utami does beat... I imagine there is a very, close near fall where Harley Cameron or someone at ringside, either Mackie or Harley, one of the two silly goofs, does a distraction, and then Tam gets a roll up 1-2, and it's like a really close 3, but Utami does kick out and get the win with the hijack bomb in 12:59. 92 rating for Utami, 71 for Tam. But yes, Utami, after a less than stellar, tugging on my collar, performance in the Elimination Chamber, is back to her winning ways yet at night. Also, after, her and Julia lost last week, so, yeah. We then get a backstage video, and Neville, he's sitting in his dark chair, and he's just laughing, and he goes, "Bravo, Mr. Woods. Bravo. I truly was beginning to worry that I would never see the day and that you and I would be fighting for the rest of our careers. I've never been more happy to lose. Because in the traditional sense of professional wrestling at Judgment Day, I was defeated by you. However, look at you. I told the world 6 months ago that the New Day was weak, that the New Day needed to change, and now it's not just me saying it. Sports Illustrated doesn't say that. You are also saying it, Woods. So therefore, I will take my leave and leave this up to you. But as for us, as for you boys," then Penta and Phoenix walk in. He goes, "Tonight, there are some other people I need you to introduce yourself to, because these people think they can just walk into your locker room, onto your show, and cut to the front of the queue. And we need to show them that it doesn't matter if they're brothers. So are you." And then cut straight from that to Xavier Woods being interviewed by Kayla Braxton. She says, "Woods, Judgment Day, we finally saw you end things with Neville. You picked up a victory. And finally Neville is out of your hair." And he goes, "It's a great day, isn't it, Kayla? It's a great day for the New Day to be free of the bastard once and for all. And I feel great. I, Kayla, feel alive. Because I feel like the New Day, for the first time in maybe 10 years, the New Day is a new day in more than just name only. There truly is a new day approaching, Kayla. Because I know what it takes to win. Chad Gable is the WWE Champion. He thinks he can outsmart everybody else, but let's just say he's lucky he's not on the same roster as me, because I'm the only other person here with a PhD, and I could outsmart that man any day of the week. But now I know what I've got to do. Neville's in the back window, and I feel revived, so I've got to get back to the top. I've got to get back my World Heavyweight Championship." Kelly goes, "But also, at Judgment Day, we saw Kofi and Big E. What are your thoughts on what Xavier Woods did?" He goes, "They are coming around, Kayla. And as a matter of fact, E," and Big E sort of looks confused. He goes, "Huh? Yes?" He goes, "You appeared confused at Judgment Day. But tonight, you're gonna learn from me. You're gonna learn what it takes to be successful. You're gonna learn, once again, E, what it means to be a champion. 'Cause with my victory, E, I earned a shot at a championship, but instead of chasing back my world championship, which I will come for, I bestowed upon you an Intercontinental Championship match tonight against Okada." Biggie goes, "What?" Goes, but I'm not ready, Woods. I haven't prepared for this championship match." Woods goes, damn, E. I wasn't really prepared much at all. But trust me, you saw how to win. And tonight, just do what I did at Judgment Day. And you too will win. And when you finally once again hold singles gold in your hands, you'll realize the truth. And you'll realize I was right. And you'll be saying, I am finally once again the Intercontinental Champion. But most importantly, thank God for Xavier Woods. And then Woods walks away and Kofi goes, Biggie looks to him and goes, did you know anything about this? He goes, I swear I didn't, or else I would have told you. But yeah, Big E and Okada for the IC title is our main event tonight. Another non-rated match. The Usos are here on SmackDown. They debuted, after being drafted over at Judgment Day. They face the Fritz brothers, another brother tag team. Brother versus brother, we've got the Creed brothers, we've got the Usos, we've got the Fritz brothers. A lot of brothers on this show. The Hulkster. He's technically still alive at this point, But, yes, but the Usos do win. Jey Uso pinning David Fritz with the 1D. 92 for Jey Uso, 95 for Jimmy, 75 for Kevin Fritz, and 79 for David Fritz. Then after the match, they're yeeting. Jey grabs a mic. He goes, Friday Night SmackDown. The Usos are now in your city. Now this brand, Us. Over the years, SmackDown's been our home. All those years ago, SmackDown was the brand we were on. We found ourselves, Us. And we've been, sort of caught up in family business over on ECW. But with the family business tied up, Jacob the champion and Roman on Raw, it's time for us to get a fresh start, Us, and coming back home. And waiting for us back home is a very important match. A match we've been wanting for years. A dream match against them Motor City Machine Guns, Us. So Alex Shelley, Chris Sabin, if you are in the sound of my voice, just know when you go to bed at night, whatever that is creeping up behind you, it ain't paranoia. It's the Us. And then they get cut off by springboard kicks from the Lucha Bros. Penta and Phoenix assault the Usos. They toss Jey out of the ring, deliver that assisted package power driver to Jimmy, and the Usos left laying by Penta and Phoenix. So it seems, they didn't have to wait long to find out who Neville was talking about. Not that it was very cryptic, but yeah. Then see the Hurt Business. Sans Bobby Lashley, he's not here tonight. And MVP goes, boys, I tried to warn that Buster Gates. Every single week I told him about Sami Zayn and he didn't listen. And now because of that, not only is he not the World Heavyweight Champion, but more importantly, neither is the almighty Bobby Lashley. But Bobby Lashley, he's taken time to regain himself. He'll be back and he'll be stronger than ever. And then Ricochet just laughs. And MVP goes, what's funny? So if Bobby Lashley's out here, that kind of means that I'm calling the shots on the Hurt Business, okay? And I say we need to get ourselves back in winning ways and watch that stink of Bobby Lashley losing off, So I'm a fight, and I'm a fight whoever the first person is when I turn around. Aha! He turns around and AJ Styles is there and he goes, no, carry on, Ricochet, carry on, please do. Ricochet goes, it's actually funny that it's you, because you kept saying that you wanted to wrestle the very best here on SmackDown because you don't know when your washed up ass is going to retire for good. Well, they don't get any better than the King of Flight. So how about tonight, you and I put you down. Aha! AJ goes, God, I'll stop. Yes, please, just stop making that noise. And then he walks off, and then MVP does Solina goes, it is annoying, yes. But yeah, Ricochet and AJ Styles one-on-one later on tonight. We then cut to Candice in her locker room. And, you know, she's sort of sitting there smiling to herself. She goes, "You did good, girl. You did good. You're not the champion just yet, but it's in time. But, more importantly, you showed the world what happens when you mess with us. When people mess with you, what happened to Dakota happens to everybody. And now, time's running out. Soon, it'll just be you and Dakota one more time. And you can finally move on." And then Nova Nebula walks in. She goes, "You wanted to speak to me?" She goes, "Sit." And Nova sits down. And she goes, "What is it?" She goes, "I've heard Dakota is not here tonight." And as soon as she says that, Nova just sort of sighs. She goes, No, wait, this benefits you too, okay? Because you really want that shot at IYO. You really want that shot at the Women's Championship, right? And she goes, "Yeah, I'm going to get it tonight." She goes, "Well, if you listen to what I have to say, it'll be even easier for you. As the only person in this locker room that I don't hate. What do you say?" And Nova's like, "I'm listening." A1 rated tag match. Shayna and Carmella keep a hold of their tag team title opportunity. Shayna submits Zelina Vega with a Kirifuda clutch in 12:44. 70 for Carmella, 83 for Shayna Baszler. So yeah, Shayna and Carmella do I say technically they do retain, yeah, because technically it was on the line, I guess. But Shayna and Carmella will face New Millennium next week for the Women's Tag Team Championships. We then cut to Ember Moon in her locker room. And, you know, she's just looking in the mirror. She's sort of like putting on her eye makeup or whatever. And she goes, "Damn, another show. Another SmackDown. You're not booked. Okay? When you came back to this place last year, you said this was going to be different. You were going to turn the tides around. Something is going wrong inside your brain, Ember. Something is going wrong inside your brain. And you've got to find out what it is and sort it out." And then she adjusts the mirror, and then we see Candice standing behind her. She goes, Don't quit talking on my account." She goes, I swear to God, get out of my locker room." And she goes, "That's not a very nice way to treat somebody who cares so lovingly for you. But, Ember, Judgment Day was great. Sure, I didn't come up and win the World Championship, but that's down the line. Now, once I take care of Dakota, then I can save this place. But I can't do it alone." And Ember goes, "I thought you swore our friendship." She goes, "I did. This isn't a friendship thing. This is sort of, I need somebody else to clean up my mess. And the second that's done, I'll let you fly out on your own. As somebody that cares about you because you woke me up, Ember. The best I could do, because I truly am genuinely a good person, is to help you out for helping me." And Ember goes, "I'll pass. Thanks. But, I'll make sure to remember where you are in case I need help in the future." And she walks away. Because I'm joking, of course. And Candice just smiles and goes, "Yeah, of course." Swerve comes to the ring with Lord Bando by his side. And he goes, "It's been almost a goddamn year. A clash at the castle last year, I retained the World Heavyweight Championship against a bum named Drew McIntyre in his hometown. On that night, he was not good enough to beat me despite having his family by his side. And he held that grudge this whole time until finally, at Judgment Day, I put him down. I shut that ambulance door, I shut his mouth, and I drove his ass down, hopefully back to Scotland. We won't see his ass for another 6 months. That's what happens when you step into my house and step in my face. Okay? You get put down. And it's almost freeing to be standing here on SmackDown and to be asked what's the future for Swerve, and it not be Drew McIntyre. It feels so good to have Drew McIntyre behind me. I don't know what's ahead of me. There's plenty of options. Sami Zayn, he's looking for the next #1 contender for the World Championship. I'd love to get my title back. Okada's here now. I've wanted to wrestle Okada for so many years. He's finally here in WWE and he's a champion. That would tear the house down. But quite frankly, I'm still feeling a little bit beat up from Saturday night. Still feeling a little bit beat up from WrestleMania. So, I'm going to take my time. But just let it be known. Everybody here on SmackDown, you're officially on the clock. Because now I'm free to do whatever the hell I want. I need to remind the world whose damn house this is. And that is Swerve's house. He turns around and he eats that big stiff back elbow from Andrade. Andrade sort of, he takes his hairpin out, he lets his hair loose or whatever. He picks up Swerve and he plants him with a hammerlock DDT. He sort of just smiles and everyone's like, what the fuck? The security runs out. Lord Bando's like, what the fuck's happening? What the fuck's happening? And they sort of like escort Andrade away, and he just smiles after he leaves Swerve laying. We then see Johnny Gargano. He's coming out of a locker room. We can't see what's on the door, but he's coming out of a locker room. He goes, Johnny! He goes, Nick? How you doing today? Your suit's looking great, If you lost some weight. He goes, enough of the pleasantries, Johnny. Cedric was here earlier on. He's left now. But he was complaining about... Of course he was complaining. Of course he was complaining. Okay, what? 4 or 5 times I've wrestled Cedric now? It's over. I'm not defending my championship against him anymore. Nicholas goes, no, I told him that, and I agreed with you, hence he left the building. But, Johnny, is there something you're not telling us? And he goes, what? Why did Candice say something? And Alex goes, no, that's sort of the point. Because, that Cruiserweight Championship, over the years, who's held it, apart from one time when it was sort of stuck in some weird anime thing. I don't know what that's all about, but it's been for respectable competitors. The very best wrestlers, 205 pounds and under, compete for that championship like men. And Gurney goes, yeah, and me having the championship proves that I'm the best cruiserweight wrestler in the world. Hollis goes, yeah, it would typically be that way, but as obviously the general manager of SmackDown, I watch our premium live events, and Cedric Alexander had the match won on Saturday night. And he goes, well, that's weird, because he's certainly not the champion. How can you have the match won if he's not the champion, right, Nick? He goes, oh, that's what I'm asking you. You took that lumbar check, and you were out. Then all of a sudden, you weren't out, and you'd won. And, same thing with WrestleMania, really. Nick, I promise you, I don't know what happened. I guess when I'm out there, I just get a second wind and become undeniable. And then Johnny goes to leave, and he goes, Johnny, one more. He goes, no more questions, Nick. I've got somewhere to be. Velocities later on tonight. I've got to be out in that ring. And he walks away, and Nicholas sort of just rubs his hands together, right, okay, well, that was... And he sort of notices the locker room that Johnny came out of. He sort of looks confused. He goes, huh? It's weird. He walks away, and then we camera pans. It was Dakota Kai's locker room. Obviously empty tonight because she's not here, but Johnny was in there doing something. Another 90-rated match. We're on fire today with these. AJ Styles defeats Ricochet with a Styles Clash. Yeah. You know, it's AJ and Ricochet. You know the sort of match you're getting. 78 for AJ, 93 for Ricochet. And yeah, a nice win for AJ here tonight. You know, he came up short against Ilya, so he needed a nice rebound win. Ricochet. You know, the Hurt Business sort of, I guess, time at the tippy top of the card is over. But the thing with SmackDown is that I was literally looking at this while I was trying to set up new feuds, is that Raw has, you know, Seth Rollins, Cody Rhodes, CM Punk, Roman Reigns, fucking John Cena, and then like you've got the Chad Gables, the LA Knights, that are sort of like also upper tier main eventers. But on SmackDown, and this was by design when I set up the rosters, you don't really have like that obvious, like, for lack of a better term, S tier that, you know, the Punks, the Codys, the Romans, and all them go in. You've just got like a bunch of A tier people, like mid-carders and A or B tier. Like you've got Drew, Swerve, Sammy, Ilya, Randy, AJ, Bobby, small that I'm forgetting, Neville, Xavier Woods, Montez Ford. You know, all these people, those like upper mid-carders that like. Again, like I say, like it was by design. I wanted Raw to have all the heavy hitters, like, and all the name value, and SmackDown to be more of this. But like there are, what I mean to say is, when I said the Hurt Business are out of the tippy top picture, is that that's technically not really true, because, you know, feuding with any of the names in that sort of orbit is still sort of like in the main event mix. Like Drew and Swerve were still in the main event mix because they were beefing each other despite both being in the main event, not having the belt on it. But yeah, SmackDown is in a sort of a, on the men's side at least, sort of a transition period at the minute. After I wrapped up Neville and Woods, I wrapped up Swerve and Drew, I wrapped up other stuff. Okada's got nothing going on really at the minute. But yeah, on the men's side, SmackDown is... But it's also kind of exciting, you know. It feels fresh. I feel like SmackDown carried on a lot of feuds coming out of WrestleMania. It carried on the Neville and Wood stuff, again, Swerve and Drew. And then, yeah, the world title stuff. So it feels like SmackDown in the next few weeks has a chance to finally, you know, do something different with the men's scene. All that to say, AJ Styles defeats Ricochet. We then cut backstage, and Harley Cameron is in the J-Flow locker room. She goes, "God, we nearly had her tonight, ladies. Okay, ever since I joined, we've not had the very best luck, but I think that's because we are swinging way too high above our level. But you don't grow and you don't succeed if you don't take those big swings. And damn, tonight, you were 1 millisecond away from pinning the former Women's World Champion, pinning the woman who main evented WrestleMania, and that would have been huge for you, for us, to prove to Cammy and to the rest of them that we're not a joke, to prove to them that we may be singing, and we may be cute, we may be idols, but we can kick ass when we need to. Which brings me to you, this so-called scary beast, Megasis. I'm not even sure that's a real creature. But I'll tell you one thing that will be real. This wrath that you'll be feeling next week at my hands and feet. Feel the wrath." And she walks off. And then the rest of the J-Flow goes off, just look at each other. And men look back at her and they go, "She's gonna be in trouble." They get a sit-down interview. Randy Orton is sitting down with Pat McAfee. You know, similar to the one Ray did with Joe Tess on Raw. It's Randy and Pat. And Pat goes, "Randy, I truly appreciate your time here tonight. Because when you came back and RKO'd your former tag team partner Ilya Dragunov, and last week you told Ilya it's nothing personal, and I just wanted to, sort of break that down, Randy. Why? What is going on? For the very first time in your career, maybe, this is your floor to let the world into the mind of Randy Orton. And Randy goes, Pat, I've been wrestling in WWE for 23 years. I've been wrestling in WWE longer in my life than I was alive before I ever got to WWE. So, the WWE fans who have been watching this show since 2002 have seen me grow up from being an arrogant little shit to developing into a top superstar, and then I had children and I became mellowed out Randy Orton to now. So Pat, Randy Orton of 15 years ago, 10 years ago would want to beat the shit out of Randy Orton of 2025 for doing this. He'd slap him in the face and go, what the fuck are you doing? Why are you talking about all this stuff? Use that as an advantage, a mental advantage against people. But when I took out Ilya Dragunov last week, it really was nothing personal. I just needed to drop Ilya Dragunov to do what I need to do. You see, Pat, over the years, I think people are starting to forget who the hell I am. It's starting to feel like over the years, the past few years, people were thinking if Randy Orton were to leave, and Randy Orton were to leave for a year, forever maybe, would people even notice that I was gone? Pat, I'm a 14-time world champion, playing second fiddle to everybody on this show. I don't care who it is. I don't care if it's Ilya Dragunov or the Motor City Machine Guns or Sami Zayn or Xavier Woods. Everybody that I've been in the shadow of over the past 2 years. John Cena's retiring in December. Me and John will link like this. You can't talk about John without talking about Randy Orton. You can't talk about me without talking about John. And he's getting this hero's welcome. The carpet's being rolled out for John. He's getting title matches. He's getting a whole ass retirement tour for the whole year. He's getting dream matches. He's getting this. He's getting that. What am I getting? If Randy Orton would go out there and announce his retirement next week, what would I get? Would this company even give a shit after 23 years of busting my ass? Missing birthdays, missing my kids' births, missing every single possible thing I could because the old man who used to run me into the ground had me working 350 days a year. I made my name in this place as the legend killer, and all those years ago, the joke used to be, Randy, when you become a legend in yourself, does that mean you're gonna kill yourself? I can finally answer that question. No. I'm not. I'm gonna kill everybody else. Pat goes, well, Randy, for the first time in my life, I can't believe I'm saying this, but you're human. You feel vulnerable, Randy. And I'm sorry. Come on. Give me a hug. And Randy sort of looks at Pat McAfee in disgust. He sort of looks at his hands. He looks at himself in disgust. Because he doesn't like this. He doesn't want this. He gets up. And Pat McAfee walks towards him to go and hug him. Pat puts his arms around Randy. Randy sort of shoves him off. He RKO's Pat McAfee on the floor. And then, you know, the Pat McAfee show team, whatever, come rushing in, checking on Pat. He goes, "Don't you dare put your hands on me again, huh? Cut out with that crap. Okay?" And he walks off. And Pat is getting checked on. 89. They both scored 95. There was a lack of psychology, apparently. Sure. The 90-rated match streak is over by 1 rating. But yeah. Nova defeats Julia. 20 minutes and 12 seconds with Area 451. They both scored 95s. And yeah, Nova Nebula, after coming so close in the Elimination Chamber, earns a one-on-one title shot against IYO SKY. Presumably at Bad Blood, but that's not being confirmed. We then cut back. We see Lord Bando approach Andrade. He goes, "Hey, what the hell do you think you're doing out there, huh? Swerve was out there celebrating his big win and you came out there and you took him out, huh? What is this about?" And Zelina Vega walks into frame. And she goes, "That was Andrade delivering on a promise. That was Andrade delivering a gunshot, kill shot, you could say. That was Andrade sending a message. Your spot is open. And Andrade is ready to take it." We then see Ilya. He's pacing around backstage. And he goes, Randy, first of all, Randy. After all this time, you want to finally let the world into the psychopathic mind of Randy Orton. That's fine. I don't care. Because I'm the only person on this goddamn roster who's seen scarier things than the mind of Randy Orton. It's the mind and the body and the spirit of the Shah. I was the one dragging your ass to championship glory. I was the one reviving your dead-ass career, and you want to sit there and drop me, claim it was my fault. Well, Randy, next week, you, me, one-on-one. Ilya Dragunov sending the message out to Randy Orton. They're finally going to have their match one-on-one next week here on SmackDown. And there we go. Next week, we have a pretty stacked episode of SmackDown, quite frankly, including the aforementioned match, as we just heard. Former tag team champion partners go one-on-one against each other. Randy Orton, you know, sort of mentally scarred, I guess. You know, he'll never admit what he is, which is paranoid, but he's gonna go one-on-one with Ilya Dragunov next week here on SmackDown. Plus, women's tag team champions on the line as New Millennium make the trip over to the Blue Brand, where they defend the championships against the number one contenders, the Fierce and the Fabulous, Shayna Baszler and Carmella. We also have another major tag team match. Jimmy and Jay, the Usos, back on SmackDown, back in action once again as they take on the men who took them out earlier on tonight. The Lucha Brothers, Penta and Rey Fenix. You've got to figure that one's going to have major tag team championship implications. And we saw Bobby Fish be sent to the slaughter on Raw last week. Next week here on SmackDown, we may see a similar outing, or maybe Harley Cameron can shock the world, who knows. But she stepped up. She's going to continue this war between J-Flo and Queendom Omega, and she's called out the Megasis, and they're going to go one-on-one next week on SmackDown. 85, they just don't seem to click. You know, I'd have loved the 90-rated main event to end this 90-rated match. To be fair, I'm struggling very hard to imagine what an Okada versus Big E match would look like. So, valid, you know. Normally when I book a lot of these matches, I'm like, yeah, I can picture this in my head, you know, it's this match. But I'm just looking at Big E versus Okada, I'm like, Yeah, what the fuck would this be? But I guess, I know, sort of, I guess, close to what Okada does with Jeff Cobb. But, yeah. Anyway, that's by the by. Okada does beat Big E with the Rainmaker to make the first number 5 of the IC title. 79 for Okada, 71 for Big E. That's a chemistry thing. That's why the ratings are so low for this. After the match, Okada, he's celebrating. Big E gets to his feet. He shakes Big E's hand, and he leaves. When Xavier Woods and Kofi Kingston get into the ring, Kofi's there gassing up, going, "You did so good, E. I know he's new to WWE, but Okada's one of the greatest of all time. Okay? And this is your first shot at a singles championship in a long time. You took him to your limit, E. Nothing to beat yourself up about. You'll get him again next time." And then Kofi goes to leave, and Xavier Woods' face has a different story. And he goes, well, E. It appears you lost. And as Kofi's like halfway out the ring, he sort of stops as he hears, for lack of a better term, Woods berating Big E. And Big E, he does what Big E does best, and that is look like a sad, beaten puppy, so you feel sorry for whoever the fuck is shouting at him. And he goes, "What did I tell you, E? You saw me get my success, and I told you that's what you need to do to win. And now, you're a loser. So what you need to do is raise my hand and say, 'I'm sorry, Woods. I'll do better next time.'" And Kofi's like, "What the fuck is this?" And Big E sort of looks at Woods' hand. You can see the crowd's getting, restless. They don't want Big E to do this. And as Big E goes to accept, we cut to backstage. It's cut off by a commotion backstage, when Nova and Canis are beating the shit out of Io backstage. And they're in the parking lot. They sort of throw her around, throw her on the floor. Nova's shouting about, "Come on, meet the next women's world champion, huh? Meet the next women's world champion." And then Candice picks her Io up and she drags her. She goes, "Come on, I've got some things I need you to see." She sort of grabs Io, shoves her in the back seat of a car, and then she gets into the car and she drives away. And Kyrie and a bunch of security and people rush in to try and chase after the car. Nova sort of slowly backs away from the scene to try and make people not realize she's there. And that's how SmackDown goes off the air. Candice has abducted the Women's World Champion. 87 rated show. Shall we take that? What matters more is what you thought of the show. Do let me know what you thought in the comments below. And I'll see you on the other side for Velocity. The Velocity kicks off with Johnny Gargano making his way down to the ring. You can see, as he comes down, he's a little bit, off, almost like he was never supposed to be here, hypothetically. But he makes his way down. He gets to the ring and he goes, "Well, hi, everybody. So, Judgment Day. I proved to the world what we already knew, and that's that I'm the greatest cruiserweight wrestler here on WWE. Now, first of all, I know he's put me through hell over the past few months, but Cedric Alexander, what a hell of a fight. Great fight. Many are saying the best fight. But, it's over between you and I now. I'm moving on." He sort of he looks around the ring and he goes, "So, Portland, huh? What a city. Those, Portland Trailblazers, they're doing really good, huh? No, they're not? Okay, well, I just, as your Cruiserweight champion, thought I'd come out here to Velocity and say hi." That's when Dark State's theme plays and they interrupt him. And so Kwan's on the mic and he goes, "Johnny, the Cruiserweight champion of the world. The Cruiserweight world champion. That championship proves you're the greatest wrestler here on Velocity. You know, we were wondering when we were next gonna bump into you. Yeah, you know, just in case you weren't familiar. You know, I know you've been doing a lot of things over on SmackDown recently. I'm Saquon Sugars. This is Hanzo Kaneko, RKJ, Leslie Young. We are Dark State. And more importantly, we're the guys whose spot you took. We're the guys whose championship that should be that you're holding. But it's not, because new guys like us can't get our foot here with guys like you coming down here and eating up our spots. And again, we weren't expecting you here tonight, Johnny. This really is a pleasant surprise. To pick the bones of the Cruiserweight Champion himself here on Velocity with no one coming to help him. Johnny goes, Hey, I didn't come here to fight, okay? I came here to say hi to Portland, and now I'm gonna leave. And then one of the other guys, probably Leslie Young, goes, What's he doing, Saquon? He's running away. Scared. Word must be getting around about us. Johnny goes, Scared? I'm not scared. I know that can this happen as a tag team match in the main event? I go find a partner and I take on two of you guys in the main event. Yes, that's what I thought I meant. And Saquon also goes, Fine by me, fine by you guys. So yeah, tag team match in the main event. Johnny Gargano's got to go find a partner to take on two members of Dark State in our main event of Velocity. 81 rated opening match. Angel Garza, he came up short on ECW this week against Pistolero. Give him a nice win over, Andrew Everett here on Velocity, beating a 7-foot giant. That's nothing to sneeze at. What a win for for Angel Garza. 90 for Angel Garza, 63 for Andrew Everett. So yeah, nice win for Garza. He's just another name that, is a main roster guy, but his presence can add some credibility, as a former Intercontinental champion to the Cruiserweight division. Similar to how Gargano is the champion, and Cedric was the champion, and the Undisputed Era are the Trios champions, etc., etc. All the things Dark State hates. We then cut backstage. We see Hook and Shibata. Hook's got his speed belt over his shoulder. And Shibata's got his Google Translate, and he says,
You said you were in a trios match tonight, but it's just us two?
And Hook goes, Yeah. I need to find a partner. I didn't think that through. Found that this guy will do, though. And then Mr. Iguana pokes his head into frame with Layezga on his hand. And he holds Layezga in front of Shibata. Shibata just stares at the Iguana. He holds Layezga in front of Hook. Hook just stares at the Iguana. Hook walks away. Shibata also walks away, and he comes back and he goes,
Nice lizard.
and then leaves. So yes, trios match. Shibata, the only reason I've been doing Hook as a single star on Velocity is because I always thought Shibata was bigger than he was. He's billed at 209, so if you can pass Buddy Murphy off as a cruiserweight, I can pass 209-pound Shibata off as a cruiserweight. So yeah, he can wrestle on Velocity too. But yes, there'll be trios matches. Hook has recruited Mr. Iguana by his side. Him, Shibata, and Mr. Iguana. What a trio. And they'll take on 3 AAA luchadors, Star Black, Neon, and El Elemental in 6-man tag team action. It is the babyface team who wins. Shibata picking up the win over El Elemental on his Velocity debut. 47 for Mr. Iguana, 44 for Shibata, 66 for Hook, 58 for Star Black, 53 for El Elemental, and a 72 for Neon. The better team was the AAA Jobber team. Okay. Now make the most out of your 12 minutes, Tegan. Ahem. We then cut backstage. Gargano's on the phone. You can see, he goes, come on, pick up. And then we hear Candice's voicemail go off. She goes, Hey, you've reached the phone of Candice. I can't take it right now. She goes, Candice, what the hell are you? Okay. I sort of had to book myself on Velocity tonight because I thought you were going to be around to, and then Nick all this, and anyway, doesn't matter. Just call me back, okay? I goes, Hey, Johnny, And Javon Evans walks into frame. He goes, Johnny Wrestling. Guy I look up to breaking into this industry. It's great to see you around, champ. I see you having problems with Saquon and his boys. Johnny goes, yes, I am actually, in fact. He goes, well, it just so happens I sort of have a problem with those guys too, so if you need a partner for tonight in the main event coming up next, I'll be your boy. And he goes, yes, thank you, that's exactly what I needed, Javon. You know, I was having a rough time of things, and I'm trying to call my wife, she's not answering the phone, and it's all very stressful in the Gargano household right now, Javon. And he goes, really, what's that? He goes, oh, just stuff. Javon goes, stuff. Yeah, we've all got stuff going on, Johnny, but listen, tonight, the only stuff that matters is getting the 1, 2, 3 against Dark State. So Javon Evans steps in, heel team with Johnny Gargano against Dark State coming up next. Gets an 83, calm little tag match. So, there was no way to accurately portray the finish of this match in the game, so I'm just going to explain it to you. Gargano starts off, he's doing fine. Johnny Gargano is Johnny Gargano at the end of the day. He's doing alright. And then eventually he does tag out to Javon Evans. And Javon, he's being bouncy. And then eventually Saquon Sugars and Leslie Young cut him off. And you can see the numbers game is starting to get a bit too much. And then as Javon is very clearly outnumbered, you keep seeing, we keep showing Johnny. And Johnny, keeps looking up at the ramp, looking back in the ring, looking back up the ramp, looking back in the ring, back up the ramp, as if he's waiting for somebody to come out. And when it becomes abundantly clear that no one's going to come out and save Johnny, he stands on the apron, he calls Javon in, he goes to make the tag, and Johnny tags himself in, and he goes to square up to Hanzo, and then he immediately tags himself back out, and he goes, I've got places to be, sorry, and he sort of rushes away, goes, sorry, good luck, kid, good luck, and Javon Evans is fed to the wolves, and Dark State pin him. Hanzo pins Javon with a 450. 69 for RKJ, 83 for Hanzo, 70 for Javon, 87 for Gargano. Huh. 78-minute show. We take that. Actually, a pretty substantial episode of Velocity this week. It went almost 10 minutes in the recording. There is I can confirm there is a storyline happening on Velocity right now. So, and it's low-key quite important. Watching this week's episode of Velocity is kind of imperative to, following along with the biggest angle on SmackDown. So, yeah. I'm as much looking forward to the show, mainly of SmackDown still. And I'll see you next time for Heatwave, the final single brand pay-per-view, ECW's Heatwave. See you then.